Greetings and welcome to Empower 11. This is the 1 hour show that we bring to you every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. My name is Jack Voorhees, and I am sitting next to a very special and lovely lady, Ann Ribley.
Hi there, Jack Voorhees. You're quite special yourself there. You business genius and you warm, compassionate person. Really, those are like some of your most extraordinary traits that you share so abundantly.
Well, I swear, Ann, if I in my dictionary, when you look up the word love, there is a picture of you.
Yes, so let's share our love vibration with all our Empower 11 listeners here and everybody who's excited about today's show, which is empowering a quantum shift in our lives. I am very excited. We have a lot to discuss, and I almost said to you, Jack, I feel like it could almost be a two-parter because there's just so much to this.
Yeah, we're going to try to pack it into one show, but hey, if it takes two shows, we can do that. Or maybe we'll have a follow-up.
Yeah, we'll continue the conversation. As always on Empower 11, make sure that you like us on Facebook so you stay in the loop, and opt in on empower11.com. There's a free audio, the Empower Now, which is very much a part of what today's show is about, because all quantum shifts begin in the now, and they begin empowering this very moment of the now and getting in rapport with it.
Yeah, so you're either listening to us on the Empower 11 website, which you can do that, listen to us live, or any of our archive shows are there, or you're checking us out on Spreaker, which is a free app that you can get on your iPhone or Android phone. You can also subscribe via iTunes, and that's a great way to get our shows as well. And now we're recording the video of the show, and you can check that out on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search Empower 11, and you'll come up with us.
It's Empower 11 Now.
Yeah.
So that's what today is about. I mean, really, it's all about that Empower 11 stance, which is really turning up the volume, making that quantum shift in the ways that we want in our lives, where who we are becomes congruent with the life we want to live. So we're gonna dive deep into that discussion today about how to make that quantum shift.
And before we do, I'd like to just go over a little bit about your new moon ceremony that you've been doing a full moon ceremony and new moon ceremony for years, and now you did a teleseminar on the full moon ceremony, and you have a lot of information on your website annribley.com about your the rituals that you've been doing for years to create quantum shifts. And and you recently did that with the new moon. We did it as a family. We had some family in from out of town, and we did it as a large extended family was all together.
It was 11 of us. It was
Really?
so cool. Yeah, we had 11 candles lit when it was all done.
Huh.
Yeah, the new moon and the full moon are a natural phenomenon that happens twice a month, where the sun, the moon, and the earth are in perfect alignment. And that alignment is a reminder, and we're part of that. We're part of this natural world to align within ourselves, within our entire being, the life we want to live. And so it just is a time every month that we can honor with really intentional, which is like intentional prayers and wishes and manifestations we'd like to bring forth. Mm-hmm. And the full moon is about that which is dark, bringing light to, bring it out to the light, and we can release ourselves, liberate ourselves. And the new moon is about us bringing light, because it is that time of the month where the night is the darkest, where the moon is the darkest. But it's us activating the light to what we want to manifest.
So we're writing down things that we want to manifest, that we want to bring into the light.
That we want to activate the light of manifestation to.
Okay.
So it correlates with today's, and I just feel like we run our lives in the rhythms and cycles of our natural world, with our day and our nights, with how we actually have built chronology around our time schedules and around our clocks. And so the more we understand that the moon is just as much a part of how we regulate our time in the sunlight, that we can make this alignment, and it can actually help us get more tapped into the quantum possibility for ourselves.
Yeah, there is a rhythm and flow to everything. There's a tune, there's a hum, there's everything's vibrating, everything's constantly in motion and moving. And I believe the more that we can get in tune with the natural ways of the way the universe works, the way that our world works, and the way our bodies work, and the way our minds work, and we get that all in sync, and we can really flow through life in a much easier way. It's less forceful, and it's less of a place. It's more of a place of power over force, where you can actually you can create, you can overcome, you can easily navigate through the world in which we live in.
Well, that's why, with Empower 11, we like to talk about that all of our experiences are either moving us into an empowering state in our evolutionary experience of who we are and what we're giving to the world, or it's disempowering us.
Yeah, I was talking with a woman. I wasn't talking with her. I was chatting on Facebook, or we were posting on the same post, and she said that she was broken. She said that she did experience something very horrific in her life, and in the last couple of years, it was
a tragedy.
She lost her daughter
to a tragedy.
Yeah. So I think she was 18 years old, and there was a car accident, and she lost her daughter, and she still sees herself as broke, and I just said that I don't believe that she's broke. I believe that we're built to heal, and the body naturally it heals itself. We get cut, the body becomes aware that it's cut and starts sending the right things to that injured place in order to heal. And I don't believe that anybody's broken.
Well, the soul is already in its light of perfection, whole and perfect. And this body, this life that we can take on, pieces of it can feel fragmented and feel as if they're not in that wholeness experience for ourselves. And that's what we're here to discuss with Empower 11. I look at the experience that I went through with my life. I had a tragedy that happened. I was run over by a lawnmower, and it could be interpreted.
And we've all had tragedies.
I absolutely.
We've all,
that's why I say everybody has their lawnmower story.
But everyone has their unique pain. I've experienced a lot of pain in my life, but I've experienced a lot of joy as well. But I haven't experienced her pain, and I haven't experienced your pain. And the only experience I know is my own experience. I have empathy, for people, but. That being said, it's like I don't believe that we need to hang out in that place. There is a time for mourning. There is a time for grieving. There is a time for healing, and I believe the grieving process is a part of the healing. So anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you. You were talking about your leg and how you were run over by a lawnmower.
Well, the point I wanted to make is that there's a way that it could be empowering or disempowering me. One could be that I have a broken, damaged leg, or the other could be is that the real essence of who I am is perfect, it's whole, and even in this expression that I've had, which has experienced tragedy, which has experienced things that could appear as like a form of a loss. If I project the perfection, the vitality, the life that I am, even into that experience, I empower it to be a much more vitalistic experience, alive experience, and versus feeling like the fragmented parts of life can't be healed and whole, like what you were saying, Jack. Yeah. So I feel that, the part of her, the truth of her is not broken. And we can empower our experience in our lives. Yeah.
It just got me thinking about that woman we saw, and I cannot remember her name.
Anita Morjani.
Yeah, who experienced a death and
of herself.
and came back.
And her
And,
book is called Dying to Be Me.
yeah.
And it was put out by Hay House.
So we went and we went and
Saw
heard
her
her
live,
speak,
yeah.
and she was she was it was a pretty incredible experience. I mean, there was nothing like hokey pokey about it or airy fairy. I mean, she didn't choose this, and she's just sharing her experience to like her experience, strength, and hope to others. And it was interesting when she said when she was on like the other side, she it was very peaceful. It was like there was an air conditioning on and somebody turned off the air conditioning and you didn't notice the air conditioning was on.
And she called the air conditioning sound and the buzz and the hum in our lives of fear. Mm-hmm. And you don't realize how much of it is pervasive in our life and is operating on every level until it's like, she said, like an air conditioning that's just shut off. And all of a sudden there's the quiet.
Yeah. And, her father that wasn't, died unhappy with her was, there was it was all a place of peace. And I believe that if any of our loved ones who have passed could communicate with us, they would tell us that, hey, it's no big deal, it's just a part it's just the evolution of ourselves.
It's a shift in the state of being in which we're living. There's that part of us which is eternal. And so speaking of that,
speaking of a shift, so let's break this down. We're talking about creating a quantum shift here.
Empowering a quantum.
So what is a shift? Let's just talk about the shift first. What do you consider a shift, Anne?
Well, I actually have notes that I got from the dictionary, and a shift is to move from one place or position or direction to another. Mm-hmm. So that's a shift. It's like a change in gears. It could be. It's a move from one place, position, or direction to another.
Okay. So, and then what is a quantum shift, or what is quantum? Did you look that up as well?
Yeah, I don't have the definition for quantum, but the quantum is like a massive quantity of energy. Mm-hmm. It's a highly formable, energy movement. Mm-hmm. And so when we put it together, a quantum shift is this place or this change or this experience of life in this highly energizing experience.
And I believe that we're all having shifts and quantum shifts in our life. That's happening. That's a part of the natural progression of people. If birth is a quantum shift when we were born. But I guess even before that, before we were born, I guess it's like when sperm meets egg, and that's a quantum shift. And there's just an evolution of quantum shifts. That I think that what happens is as we go through life, it's like we're trying to often create stability. And this place of like not rocking the boat, just kind of.
Well, it's a place that when you say we're just trying to create stability, I think a lot of times we're trying to move away from fear in order to feel safe, in order to feel secure, in order to feel on purpose, in order to feel love, in order to feel abundance, it's just the shift that we're trying to get this place of security out of a place of fear. And really, fear is the motivating activator, and versus a quantum shift, where it's in the Empower 11 way, is about getting who we are on the inside to match the life we want to live. I feel, which it is highly easily recognized, or we can see it when a sperm meets an ovum, because what it is, I believe a quantum shift is a highly empowered possibility that manifests. Mm. That's my definition, Jack.
Yeah, that's in the Anne Ribley dictionary.
Yes, it's a highly empowered possibility that manifests, and I believe we all want a quantum shift and we want to empower a quantum shift. We want to create the space of a highly empowered possibility that can manifest. And we see that when a sperm and ovum come together, that we actually get this living, breathing human being that's got its own identity. I mean, that is a highly empowered possibility that manifest it's a miracle. And that's available to all of us right now, I believe, this quantum shift.
Yeah, we experience miracles all the time. These miracles, birth is definitely a miracle. I mean, it's a huge creation, and I think that we can often we can often discount these miraculous things that are the powers that we actually have in order to create quantum shifts and in order to get where we want to go, in order to make these things happen. The thing is, we absolutely have the power to do it. Well, and I think that a lot of times there's this disbelief that I don't believe I can do it. I don't believe that things like that happen to me, or I have those powers. But the powers are in us. And
they're actually natural, because if you look at like a woman's body, and I mean, that's a quantum shift, and that's a miracle unfolding of our capacity.
Your body is a miracle unfolding.
That is the fact that possibility exists, that we can actually create human life and the body can adapt and birth that human life. I think it comes, and here's an addition to my definition of, not only that is it a highly empowered possibility that manifests, it's when creation meets its match. And that's like, I've said this to you, Jack. I look at the birth of my children and our love coming together so effortlessly. It's already in us to birth these possibilities. So
when the formless meets the form.
Which brings me to the infinity sign.
Oh, yeah, two worlds meet.
Yes, it's the two worlds meeting. It's when we can take these possibilities inside us, the energetic possibilities that are pregnant inside of us and ready to be born into the world.
Mm-hmm. So I think that also kind of a misconception about these quantum shifts is that these quantum shifts have to happen rapidly. And I don't think that. I think sometimes they happen rapidly, and sometimes they happen not so rapidly.
In even to quantify rapidly, I think people think that they have to be thunderous and lightning and full of huge spectacular display and
fireworks.
Yes, and winning the lottery, something that's like really extraordinary. Mm-hmm. In this obvious way, where right now we could be in these really incredible quantum shifts in our lives, and all we have to do is not sabotage it.
Yeah, you could be much closer. You could be in a quantum shift that you've created maybe long ago that is in the process of manifesting, and you could be much closer than you think that you are.
Absolutely.
Much like the bamboo. The Japanese, I think it's a Japanese bamboo that it takes so long to grow, like 4 inches, and then it ends up growing like 60 feet. And it's so rapidly that you can actually just sit there and kind of watch it grow.
Yeah, hear it grow. But that's because it takes so long to build its root system, so that when it's time to grow, it just shoots right up.
Yeah, so maybe you're in the process of building your root system.
So the question is when's the quantum shift for the bamboo? Is it once it breaks ground and it starts growing upright? Or is the quantum shift actually in its manifestation form, and it's actually creating it and happening and manifesting in that root system that's going down, knowing it's going to be going straight up at a rapid speed?
I think sometimes these shifts, we kind of get in the driver's seat of these quantum shifts, and we are actually in the creation process. And then other times, I think that they're kind of thrust upon us. And I would rather be in the creation part than having it thrust upon us. 'Cause the thing is, the world is changing constantly, and the only thing that the only constant is change. And this thing is like we can create the quantum shifts that we desire, or we can have quantum shifts happen to us that maybe we don't desire.
Yeah. So then, where do you think? I do believe that life is happening, because that's back to life is happening, And there's a way, there are things outside of our control. And I think a lot of times that fear of that encompasses so much of our life, because that is a reality that does exist. There are elements to life that we don't have control over. And I
Sure.
feel that we can lose so much of our power trying to get control over areas of life that we won't have control over. But then at the same time, we don't have to be in this reactive pinball machine type of life, which brings me to what, it's so simple, Jack, but it's really powerful how you would always talk about in the recovery process. One of the most fundamental aspects with recovery is that you had to accept life on life's terms.
Yeah.
And that's the part of life that can be the unpredictable, the part we don't have control over, that we have to surrender to. And then we sharpen that part of ourselves in order to be able to
the whole thing about being in recovery and going through the recovery process is that it's that we know that we can't control all life's aspects. My phone could ring right now, and my life could be changed forever. And the thing is, developing the tools in order to deal with that, in order to be able to handle the situations that life brings.
So then there's this place where if we can relax into our life, really relax into our essence, understanding there are unknowns to life, then we can begin to infuse and empower our way to create these quantum shifts to actually accelerate our own law of attraction, to strengthen our own laws of manifestation in order to get what we want. Because now we're not losing all of this energy being in fear, being in lack, which is what I want to talk about. What gets in the way of us being able to create a quantum shift in our life or empower one?
Well, and I think I touched on a few of those things already. That we don't believe that we can do so. That we have resistance to change. I think that's one. I think the fear is a big one. I think fear is really. I think it holds us back in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to a quantum shift. Because when you create a quantum shift, there are a lot of unknowns. There is a lot of faith. It's a leap of faith. It's a quantum leap, and this quantum leap takes a leap of faith in order to do. And I think that can be scary.
Okay, so I think there's a lot of focus on conquering fear. And I think that's a much harder way to get comfortable in life, and in order to get into this place where we can influence our reality much more powerful. Because I do believe that the more we relax into that leap of faith of who we are, that strong position of the truth of us, I do believe it begins to actually dismantle fear. And that we don't have to work so hard at trying to conquer fear in our life.
So say that again.
I believe that the more we can relax into the truth of ourselves, who we are, into that leap of faith in life, that I believe that starts to dismantle fear.
Yeah, I think,
versus having to feel like we have to conquer fear, and then we can get comfortable with ourselves and life and get that leap of faith.
I think when we're being the truth of who we are, there is less fear involved, because we're not. It's not like I think that sometimes, and I've seen this in business, where some people think like they're going to find out I'm a fraud. But when they're actually not, but
Right.
they're portraying themselves in a way that isn't authentic. So then they're afraid their authenticness is going to fall apart, or their inauthenticness is going to fall apart. They're going to see them for who they really are, when they should just be presenting who they really are in the beginning.
Well, I think sometimes that people are in a place that they're presenting who they really are, and they do get recognized for it, and strengthening that security. I mean, this is a common thing that happens with a lot of people who are creative, who are writers, and success then starts to bestow itself upon them. And then they think, oh my gosh, that security and believing in yourself? I think it's just something that comes through time, and we all feel vulnerable to it. Because I remember when I had my newsletter business, when I had a highly successful health and lifestyles newspaper, and it took off right away, and I had over a million paid subscribers to it. Now you're talking, I was in my early 20s.
That's big.
And as a writer doing that, I remember feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to go to the mailbox and they're all going to cancel. It really did. And then it was when I went to this Maui's Writer Conference, they had said, who all here has been paid for their work with writing? And I was one of the people. I was actually a smaller percentage that got to raise my hand. And then he said, do you ever have, who was leading this, said, do you ever have the fear that they're going to find out that I'm not really a writer, even though you are? Because it's that fear of the vulnerability you feel by presenting the authentic part of yourself.
Yeah. I get you on that. I mean, there is something about this. There's a strength and vulnerability, and when people dig uniqueness. People because it takes uniqueness. I mean, if you're going to put out a movie like everybody else has put out a movie, and this has been done before, there's just a movie that just came out. It's already been done. It was just done. This one where they take over the White House. Okay, well, you just had a movie about taking over the White House. Okay, so there's nothing unique about that. So if you brought a unique movie, you're gonna get better. It's this cookie cutter kind of thing, It's like, oh, that one made money, we'll do this and make money, but that isn't the way. People don't dig that. But when you're unique and you give the best of your unique self and you lay it out there, it can seem vulnerable for you to do that.
Right.
But then that's where the most power is. That's where most people are attracted to.
Happen.
Who is the girl on the TED Talk recently that talked about all this vulnerability and stuff?
Brene Brown.
Brown. And she's Brene.
Yes.
Okay, so huge success. She's had huge success. Well, how did she become so successful? She laid it out there, man. She just said.
Vulnerability seems like a weakness, but it's actually one of our greatest strengths that we can call upon.
Right. Okay, so we got a lot to cover in this show, but I wanted to talk about when we're saying what gets in the way. I think that the lack of willingness to do what it takes. I think that's definitely part of it. There's this thing like there's the what it takes is to get in this high vibrational tune, which is like a tuning fork. You have a tuning fork, you got to hit that one side of the tuning fork for it to resonate on the other side. If you don't do it, it's not going to happen.
I also believe that our personality can get in the way of us.
Ego.
Well, okay, now let's define the parts of our personality, because a lot of people have attached that their personality is who they are. And we're really something more than our personality.
What are we in?
We are a soul, a spark, a life that is much bigger and magnanimous, and that's where our power sits in order to empower a quantum shift, is in the truth of who we are. And this place where we attach our personality, which is where the ego can live, which is where judgment sits. And
judgment.
And the difference between judgment actually is a survival skill that we were giving in our capacity as human beings.
Yeah, there's having good judgment, and then there's being judgmental.
And that's a part that has become very strongly, deeply enrooted in our personality, culturally, in our personality traits.
Yeah.
And I believe that takes us out of our game.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
to empower.
This judgmental place, where
it's
people want to
resistance.
feel righteous, and then they feel like there's like power in this righteousness.
Well, I think when you say that, Jack, I think that can seem extreme and like, oh yeah, I see that in that one person. Yeah, they really do that. But what about these more subtle areas of our lives?
Like what?
In all of our ways that we're interacting with our world, are we judging? Okay, I got
okay.
Like what?
All right.
Remember the story you were just telling me when I was talking about this as we were mind mapping, and you told me about the guy when you, that very, like what, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when you met that guy who, at that recovery place, his eye.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, I met a gentleman at it was a crisis residential unit in Pontiac, Michigan, I think it was. And I saw him as this bum. He smelled bad. He had one eye, and I was younger, and I wasn't as evolved as I am today, and I saw myself as superior to him
in a judging kind of way.
in a very judgmental way.
So
Yes.
so that influences a lot of us on the subtle level, and that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about. Okay, so now continue with the story.
But
'Cause
then,
it's
then
really
I found
powerful.
out that he had this really horrific event that had happened to him, where he was driving with his wife and his 3 daughters, and they were in an accident, and he lost all of them. He was the only one that survived, and he was actually college educated. He was some kind of professor or something, like he taught at a college, and he was so distraught over this that he actually stabbed himself in the eye with a fork, which, I mean, it's horrific and everything. But the thing is,
You said that changed you.
oh yeah, it's like, I took some reflection. I looked back on myself, and I said, like, I have not walked in other people's shoes, and therefore I cannot judge these people. I cannot be judgmental of others unless I have walked in their shoes. I mean, everybody has their unique experiences that have made up who they are, and I just, all this judgmental aspects just kind of melted away from me.
Yeah, so I thought that was a powerful story, because I do believe, like in the way we're talking about fear, I do believe there's this hum of judgment. It's a hum. It's everywhere. It's pervasive in our culture, and we're conditioned.
Now, I still think I am judgmental. I think that's something that
We all have to work on healing it.
yeah,
really.
it's an awareness, because I kind of look at somebody, somebody in business who lies to me or something like that, and I start to judge them on that and stuff. But it's up to us to just love everybody for where they're at.
Well, that's when I know for myself, when I went through what I would call a major quantum shift in my life, and this really stuck with me, is because Wayne Dyer, he used it to create his own quantum shifts in his life. I mean, literally, he wrote a book and did a movie on the shift, and he would quote regularly Patanjali's quote on, when we are steadfast in our abstention from all forms of harm to ourself, to others, all living creatures will cease to have fear in our presence. And I really got to this place when I was going through my divorce, and I was going through a lot of what felt like betrayal with friendships, and a lot of money configurations with business, and the breaking down and the changing of all of that. I really, I kept going back to that place, that knowing that to be steadfast in all abstention from any form of harm towards myself, towards others, that all living creatures will begin to no longer have any presence of fear in our presence, became like this. I began to realize that's how we embody a quantum shift. We are a walking quantum shift when we are not harmful in our thoughts towards other people, which judgments are.
Yeah.
And when we are not harmful towards ourself, we become like a mighty magnet, where our dreams do get pulled to us, because there's no fear standing in the way to attract to us all that's beautiful and good to us.
Yeah, because fear can bring on stuff like self-sabotage, things like that are not empowering. So why would you want to create a quantum shift? I think some of it is obvious. I think it is the quickest way to create transformation. I think that quantum shifts are very powerful, and when they're intentional, then we can quickly manifest what we desire.
And the truth is we've all experienced quantum shifts in our lives. They're natural.
Sure.
It's kind of like when we were talking about, how a sperm and an ovum come together and you get a human body. I also look at, like right now, this week, I have my oldest son just turned 13. I have a teenager.
It's not right.
And I'm watching this quantum shift
Yeah.
right before my eyes as
And
he's turning from a boy to a
Yeah, you
a young.
blink and he's grown an inch or something. Yeah.
Okay, so the natural order already evolves itself in these quantum shifts where it shifts into a whole new state of being. And then we can look at our lives and we can say, okay, where are the areas that I saw that I unfolded a quantum shift? Now, some of these could have happened in disempowering ways, or some of these we could have been very much a part of in an empowering way. So the
Right.
question is like looking at what are the ways in which we've helped influence that, rapport that, and how can we get more in this direct, intentionalized way to be expanding our life, evolving our lives out of the box of comfort and convention, either that we've placed ourselves in or culturally we've been put in. Either way, it's growing ourselves out of that place and really being able to own this life that we want to be living with the Empower 11 way, where who we are on the inside truly matches that life we want to be living with our dreams, our aspirations, our love, our abundance.
Yeah. Yeah. The end of 2009 for me, and I've talked about this before, but quantum shift. The quantum shift started. So for me, I created quantum shift because I became unwilling to go backwards. I became unwilling to stay the way things were. And I declared that 2010 was going to be my year, and that I was not going to allow whatever had to happen for that to happen. I was going to embrace, and boy, it did. Huge shifts happened in my life.
You were going to embrace. I just want to point that out because a lot of our Empower 11 way is how do you make any of these changes to Empower 11 and getting that inside congruent with the outside, even if it is a quantum shift, is all about embracing, embodying, and empowering that which we desire. And so, when you say this story, Jack, you were willing to embrace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I became unwilling to, I would not waver. I mean, the declaration was signed, sealed, delivered. It was a done deal. It was solid. I was committed that whatever would happen would happen. But 2010 was going to be my year, and a huge shift started to happen, in not the way that I was
Expecting.
Yeah, but the huge shift started to happen. I broke up with my fiance, and a lot of things happened in business and stuff, and I ended up with $3.78 to my name, and it was
Starting over.
yeah, but that was the year that I traveled around the world, the equivalent of around the world 1.5 times. I went on 29 flights. I met my soulmate love. Just rapidly manifesting things in my life that were empowering me.
But you said something that's really important when we were discussing this, and you said it's a refusal, which I think that's one of the key things that is it's a refusal to accept things the way they are anymore.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or doing things, or what did you say exactly?
Well, the expression is burn the boats.
Okay.
So it was it was
no turning back.
Yeah, it was. It goes back to the old days. I forget all the details of the story, but these warriors went to go to battle. They went by boat, and they were outnumbered, and everybody was like, "What are we going to do?" And they burned the boats, so there was no going back. They had to go forward, and they had to make this happen. And I think that you have to be careful with this, though, when you say about the burning the boats thing, because the thing is, one of the things that you really need, I believe, to create a quantum shift is get really clear about what that quantum shift is. Now, not just really clear about just what it is, but why it is, why it is why it is good for you, why it is good for the world, why it benefits everyone. I don't believe that quantum shifts come easily. If they become harmful to others. I don't think that's a great place to manifest from.
Or it's only self-gaining.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's if it lines up with other people's, with their desires and stuff. I think those can become present. They can manifest much more easily. But why do you want this shift? How is it going to benefit you? How is it going to benefit others? What are the benefits? And do they line up with your purpose of what you're here for and who you are, and to help you express the creativity that you hold inside? Is this something that's really going to empower you? I think we talked a lot last week about the bright, shiny objects that don't really empower us. Nothing wrong with having a red Ferrari, shiny red Ferrari, but is it something that we're trying to manifest in our life that really empowers us?
Well, okay, so I want to go back to this part where you said it's about a refusal. The declaration is almost about a refusal. And you said in your own personal story that at that time when you made that declaration, you actually made it in a way that it was a refusal to go backwards, because you knew at that point it was only going forward towards the declaration, towards the destination, direction, destiny that you were proclaiming.
Sure. Yeah, if you refuse to go backwards and you refuse to stay where you are, then you can only move forward. And
you said at that time when you made that declaration and you kind of owned that place of a refusal to go backwards. Mm-hmm. You said you had no idea that it meant like your relationship with your fiance was going to end.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then what happened is that in the dynamic of your life, when the past box of configuration showed up that would cause you to have to go backward, you had to make decisions.
Yeah. And I said no. I said hell no. As a matter of fact, because
I think that's
the thing. I do think you can try to move forward, but you can easily slip back into old patterns.
That's what I wanted to say, because
in the refusal, the declaration, that I will not go back and do this again. I am done. This is done like dinner.
And so that power, because I know for myself, when I had a real quantum shift in my life, I know that I actually had to say no to like going down different paths, living a life in a certain way. When you say no or you refuse to go that direction, it actually opens up another direction for you. It actually opens up other possibilities. And that is what a quantum shift is. It's when we begin to manifest highly empowered possibilities that exist for us, but they're only available when we open ourselves to another way. And it's that refusal to not keep doing the old, not keep going the old way.
Yeah. It becomes a lot easier to go forwards than to go backwards. I climbed to the top of the Sandia Mountains in Albuquerque. And when I got to the top, the process of going up to the top, while you're going, you can kind of scout it out and say, oh, okay, I can see forward, and I'm going to go around that ridge, and I'm going to go up this way, and I'm going to try that. Going down, it was much harder for me, because I couldn't see where I was going, and I was dropping us down in cactus beds and things like that, because I couldn't easily see that.
Interesting.
So I think that
how you were just traveling by foot?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just trying to follow the story here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I
was on a trail?
You were scaling rocks and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. It started off trails and. So I'll go up this trail, and I go up to this ridge, and I'll go up to that ridge, and I'll go up another ridge, and then next thing I know, I'm scaling rocks.
Okay, and it was a lot easier going up than it was going down.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. Which, talk about this place, Jack, where you say declare it and then you give the tuning fork, which is the Empower 11 symbol.
Yeah, I mean, so when you declare it, you're also, for me, I was putting into action. It wasn't just I made the decision and then it came. I made the decision and then I took the proper action. So I decided, this is what I need to do. This is what I need the universe to provide me. Now, you have these two sides, like the tuning fork. And when you start doing the stuff that you're supposed to be doing, that you start taking that necessary action, then I believe the universe responds, like the tuning fork.
Yeah, it matches up. This is where that pulling to you your dreams begin to happen. And it begins to happen in this quantum multiplied way. That's why for you, when you declared it, it's like you pinged it on your side of the tuning fork. Mm-hmm. And then the universe started getting into vibrational alignment with it. And what that meant was, at first, was a breakup, was a move, was a change of business, meant all of that. But really, that it was the universe getting you into alignment.
Change of housing, change of, everything, And then I ended up changing states.
Yeah,
moving across the country and, moving out to California from Michigan.
So when you pinged it, your declaration and your refusal to go back, and really what you wanted for that to be your empowered quantum shift for yourself, you had no idea that there was going to be the shedding of the old, but the universe was aligning up to bring in exactly what your matching desires were.
Yeah, and what I learned from that is, we often talk about, when the pain becomes great enough, we'll make the change. But why do we have to wait for all that pain? And then that's what I've learned is don't wait for it to get all so painful in order to create a quantum shift in your life. When you sense the quantum shift is necessary, do it. And don't delay, because life is short and we're here to live it.
Yeah, so when we're making these shifts, we have to be willing to step into the unknown. And we have to start using faith almost like this powerful force for us.
Yeah. Yeah, often in the program, people will say to me in the 12-step program, they'll say to me, "I don't have faith," and I know that's not true, but people just can't recognize the faith that they have. You cannot drive down the road without having faith. I mean, you're driving down the road 65 miles an hour. Another car is coming at you, traveling, just passing you feet away from each other.
Yeah,
on a frequent basis. But if you did not have faith, you could not operate. You could not, you'd be driving down the road having a freak out attack every time, having these panic attacks. Faith, a lack of faith can lead to insanity.
Right.
That people become fearful of everything because they don't have faith that they're going to be okay. When they're afraid to leave the house. When they're afraid that spiders and bugs and things are going to be eating them in their sleep, and they that these unnatural fears. It can. So I believe a lack of faith is a severe lack of faith is insanity.
Okay, so then we can look at our lives and where on little levels are we allowing ourselves to be a little unstable and crazy in our fears?
Well, I know that I am crazy in love with you.
I'll have full faith in that, baby. And so if we look at our lives and we say, okay, where do we need to infuse a stronger, really a quantum shift is like a leap of faith, like what you were saying, Jack. It's a stronger leap of faith. It's a willingness to step into the unknown and know that we can trust life's ability to conspire for us when we're doing our side of the tuning fork and we're getting into resonance and harmony with what can be manifested for us, which is what I said last week about it. That we have a custom-made universe that wants to manifest this custom-made way for us.
And I would ask, what are we so fearful about? We come into this world with nothing. We leave with nothing. There's no material possessions that you are going to take with you. You can... in this world is set up for you to succeed. All the gifts and tools have been provided. You could, what may be perceived as a failure, you can fail over and over again as long as you just keep stepping up. What's the worst that can possibly happen? You mean you lose everything. Well, you're not going to leave the world with anything anyway.
Right.
So why are we so fearful? I mean, why do we hang on to things like with a stranglehold on that? And I've tried that. And it does not work. I tried it in love. I was going to, I was in a relationship and I was going to make it work no matter what. There was, I knew that I was a person that had a lot of love to give, and I thought this was my golden opportunity to do that, and I was not going to let anything happen. Failure was not an option and all this. But then when I finally let it go, then what happened? Then soulmate love came in. I mean, the real deal came into my life, and then I didn't have to force it. And there's no stranglehold on it.
See, that's back to my thing that we could actually be shifting and empowering a quantum shift in our life and be so close to this reconfiguration.
And it doesn't feel like it, and that's why we need faith.
Yeah, and that's why, it's so funny. I watched my brother go through this huge business transformation over the last several years, and he's like highly successful right now. Not right now. He is highly successful, not like it's temporary. I mean, he owns it, he lives it, and this happened to him by getting the tools and applying the tools, and then as he kept getting closer and things were unfolding, and he would just have to keep reaching for that faith. He would call me up and he would say to me, Ann, just tell me I'm being done. And I would say, you're being done. You're being done. And it's like, that's what I say to you as the listener, is that you're closer than what you think. You're being done. A quantum shift is this shift in orientation that we can take and we can make, and we can instantly begin to start seeing results come up. And because it's not so thunderous and lightning and so maybe so obvious, if we just stay on track and we don't sabotage it and know we're being done, it is showing up, it is manifesting. And Jack, when you made that declaration, you had no idea you were willing to live through it. You had no idea to the degree you were being done.
No idea. No. And we did a show called You're Closer Than What You Think.
Yeah.
And I invite you
to listen
go
to
back
it
and
or listen to it again.
Yeah.
Because it's powerful, this place to not sabotage our own quantum shifts that we're making in our lives.
True that.
Well, okay, so speaking of this, Jack, let's talk about the absolute most powerful free tool that was what you used to create a quantum shift for yourself during that time, which was that letter to yourself, which is that Empower Now audio that you can get on empower11.com.
Yeah, it evolved into a audio that it started as a letter that I wrote to myself during this time,
which contains all the words that you would need in order to create a quantum shift.
Yeah, believe in yourself. You have everything you need. All the gifts and tools have been provided. Those words just resonate with me. I embody them. Because they are part of who I am. And it was a decision to become my own best friend. And I wrote that letter to myself as my own best friend. And very powerful, not just for me, but when, I turned this into an audio, and it became a gift not just for me, but a gift I could give to the world. And
people were making quantum shifts just from that audio.
And I freely do so. You can go to empower11.com, opt in and get the free audio. And you can get it. You can listen to it. You can download it, listen to it over and over again. I believe there's this power in consistency, so do it every day for 11 days, a couple times a day. And I think that can help to, it can help with people that want to create a quantum shift in their life.
It's so funny because somebody had called you, Jack, and they were all over the place, but they wanted some business coaching. And, when I say they're all over the place, their desires were strong, and it was in all these different ways, that he was expressing to Jack, I want to I want this. I want what you have in your life. And will you coach me business wise? And Jack said to him, go download this Empower Now audio, listen to it for 11 days straight and call me back. Because if you can't even decide to empower your now for 11 days straight, I mean, Jack felt like he's not coachable. And that's why when you were in the recovery program, you know, a lot of people sought you out to be sponsored by you.
Yeah, I sponsored a lot of people, but
you always had a criteria. Where are people's commitment to consistency?
Yeah, so I'd say call me every day for a week, and then we'll talk about me becoming your sponsor. Often that would never happen
because people couldn't even follow through with that.
Yeah, and then if I knew they couldn't follow through with that, then they didn't have the commitment that they needed, and I needed to spend my time with the people that did have the commitment.
Yeah, so that's this Empower Now. I know that when you said you embody it, you own it, there was an aspect, and you said you decided to become your own best friend. Mm-hmm. So in a quantum shift to happen, we have to have that full leap of faith of belief in ourselves. And I know, Jack, one of the things that made me really fall in love with you is when, before this was even an audio, when you had shared with me, here was a letter I wrote myself, and you were describing to me how you had helped coach yourself through your own quantum shift. And this is when we were getting to know each other, and we weren't a couple yet. We were actually working together. And when you had read the letter to me, I mean, and I've said this to you, you know, through the years, but it correlates to so much of what we talked about in today's show. One of the lines that was in the Empower Now is those that do not support you will slip away, and you will bear them no ill will. And that just,
those that are not traveling with the spirit that supports you will slip away, and you will bear them no ill will.
And that exact line is what Patanjali was talking about. And that I was saying earlier is not letting our personality be our own blockage to the quantum shift. And that is when you are steadfast in your abstention of any harm towards yourself, others, all living creatures will cease to have fear in your presence. And when you spoke that, Jack, to me at that time, it just really showed me a lot of when you said, I bear them no ill will. That means there's no judgment. There's no judgment. And I really have experienced that with you, even with your ex-fiance. Even though your paths didn't work out, there's like this loving slip away that you've let happen with where she was in your life. And that speaks volumes. So anything in our life that needs to slip away, you know, at that same time, I use the mantra. Yeah,
I mean, it's just not just people. It's anything that needs to slip away, you know, as well. You know, I mean, when there's, you have the mantra. You have the perfect mantra for this. Go ahead.
That's what I did during that same time. And this is how we totally just lined up. And that's how even love attracts, all of our desires attracts, they become a magnet. And my mantra was, that which supports me boldly steps forward, and that which doesn't gracefully steps down. And that just became my flow mantra over and over again, so that I felt like I didn't have to think about it. I could have faith. I could always have faith that, you know what, if this supports me, it's going to be bold and it's going to step forward in a way I can clearly see it. And if this doesn't support me, it'll gracefully step down. And there is no judgment in that. There is no right or wrong, or this person's bad, or this situation's bad. It makes it so that there's this trusting leap of faith and flow. And
it kind of releases you to focus on the solutions, the outcomes which you desire, versus the problems that, I think there's many that focus on the problems and the lack. And when you can refocus that, where you're concentrating your thoughts, where you're spending your energies on solutions and where you are going, you know, when you're moving towards where you're going, it's very difficult to carry around all this other stuff. So lighten your load, concentrate on where you want to go, and travel in that direction.
Well, this brings me to a story that was actually just such an extraordinary moment for me, and it was really kind of simple. In today's show, we're talking about how to empower those quantum shifts and to not necessarily be looking for it in such thunderous loud ways. So if today's aha was more of a silent yes inside of you and a knowing, then I know that we've delivered what is really where you can embody that truth. And for me, I remember when I was going through this major shift in my life, and it was this moment where me and my former husband were standing in our kitchen together, and he was talking to me in this way that felt disrespectful to me not knowing how to change everything that was going on in our lives at the time. But I said to him with every ounce of my being, and I felt it and I lived it, I said, we may be in the thick of the woods right now and not know what direction to go in order to walk out into our own field of possibilities. But I said to him, I can tell you this, I am walking out of these woods and I am going to enter that field of possibilities. And I meant it in every ounce of my being. I really did. And what had transpired then from that time to now was a lot of thinning out of the denseness of the woods where my path emerged. It became clearer. And that field of possibility really did reveal itself. And that's the quantum shift.
If you feel like you're lost in the woods, you need to start traveling, because you're not going to find your way out unless you start traveling. Staying where you are is not an option. If nobody knows where you're at, you need to find your own way out. And you got to start traveling. I think
with anything, you know, and it was like for me at that time, I didn't know whether my husband and I were going to get a divorce. We were having different problems, but that became the mantra, that lived out. It basically was a graceful step down, and that which did support me boldly stepped forward. And eventually it led to soulmate love and a lot of beautiful manifestations from that I would call a quantum shift. And I'm still living
many quantum shifts.
Yeah, and I'm still living in it right now. I'm blown away as they present themselves in manifestations.
So we've approached the end of the hour. We went over a few minutes here, but we can do that. We could go on and on. Want to do another hour, Ann?
I actually invite everybody to go get your free audio on empower11.com. Take the Empower Now and just let it infuse into your whole. Embody it and embrace it and empower it into your life because it activates a quantum shift.
So until next week, the conversation continues at empower11.com, and we will see you right here next week at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Until then, have an empowered week.